Hello, parents and any teachers who may be watching. Welcome to Creating Math Ahas for Parents. I'm Dr. Sandy Atkins, Sandy, and in this video, we're going to be looking at productive struggle in mathematics. And that word productive is very important. Now, when all these standards started coming out, actually in the 1980s, they looked at what is important for children going right up through high school to learn in mathematics and to be proficient at, to help them not just succeed at math, but excel at mathematics. And so we looked at what it is children should learn, but they also have been researching and continue to research how to assess those understandings, and then what are the best teaching practices that help your child, as I said, excel at mathematics. And so we're going to be looking at information that's from a book, Principles to Action, this one, that again looks at those teaching practices, ensuring success for all, and then a book that followed that called Taking Action. And I'll give you a reference to that later. But when I did the 5 Strands of Math Proficiency video, and there'll be a link in the description below, we looked at those 5 strands that have been determined to make sure your child is proficient at math. They include conceptual understanding, understanding the why, procedural fluency, which we talked about, procedural flexibility also, that involves knowing more than one way to get an answer and to be playful with number. Strategic competence, having ways to solve problems, coming out from a variety of strategies, adaptive reasoning, and then productive disposition. And as you look at that, one aspect of that last is persistence. And if you look at the roots of this tree, talk about persistent, right? We want to make sure that your child believes in their ability to solve a problem with time and effort. And sometimes we've led children to believe that if they can't get the answer really fast, then they aren't good at math. But as you start looking at math and you do problem solving, it's as Edison said, it's having that persistence, that stamina to find and continue to find ways when they find something that doesn't work, that's not the end of it, and to seek help. Just keep going. You can figure this out. So one side of learning math is learning what we already know, right? What's already known. We practice that, we learn that. But being a mathematician, and actually being a mathematician in the 21st century, involves using math in new and creative ways, creating math that isn't known yet. And so you have to understand it at a deeper level. So we want to make sure your child understands that problems can't always be solved in seconds or minutes. Sometimes we need to get up and walk away for a moment and then come back to a problem. We do that in our adult lives quite often. You get to a point where you just need to take a break. And we want to help your children do that also. So we know that most tasks that promote that reasoning, that problem solving, take time. And what we really don't want to do, we want to avoid teaching your child procedures for problem solving. Because for it truly to be problem solving, it's addressing something you haven't seen before. Having strategies, having that understanding to come at it from a variety of angles and to stick with it. And it could take us more than seconds for sure. It could take us minutes. It might go over several class periods. It takes time to ponder. And so you may find that some of the teachers are purposely making sure things take more than one day to make sure your child develops that belief in their own ability. So I want you to take a moment to think about when you see your child struggling, when and how do you intervene? So again, this comes from the book Taking Action, and just take a moment to think about it. Do you help your child find their errors, determine misconceptions, or suggest a next step, or change the task, suggest approach to use to solve the problem, ask about their thinking, ask them to explain, justify, encourage that effort, break the problem into smaller steps, or look for the error? Which of these do you do with your children? And it can be, of course, you might do all of these at different points. So if you haven't, pause and think about what you do. Now, what we learn from taking action is that different responses have different results, and some might be unintended. See, a lot of the math I learned taught me how to get answers. So when I would approach mathematics, I try to remember what the procedure was I need to get that answer. Doesn't always work for problem solving. And so we know there are these telling responses. Sometimes what we do when the child is struggling is we suggest an approach for them to solve the problem, or we point out their error. Now think about what that could do. It's going to lower the cognitive demand of the task, right? It's actually taking a task that might have challenge for them and make it simpler, right? It's not going to be as challenging. It's going to remove the problem-solving aspect. There are these directed guidance responses where we suggest a next step or change the task or break into smaller steps, but without thinking about it, instead of helping the child use their thinking and help them continue down their thought path, right? We tend to move them towards our way of thinking, which most of the children I've ever worked with are pleasers, and they want to make sure that they're doing what we ask them to do. So they will shift, but they might not understand why. Okay? So we want to be mindful of that. There are these probing guidance responses where we help them find the errors or asking them to explain their thinking. And what I found when I ask children to explain their thinking, in explaining, they often get to a point where they pause. If they've made an error, they'll pause and there'll be some silence, and they realize there's an error there. I don't need to point it out. They'll work it out when they start to explain. So notice what these types of responses do. They're going to build on your child's thinking, leads them to new insights and ideas. It gets them past that sticking point, right? It helps them go forward again, come at it again. Now, we also have affordance responses. So quite often what I'll do is ask them about their thinking. Ask your child about their thinking, how they're approaching, what are they thinking about with those problems, and encourage that effort and give them that gift of time to think it through. See, it's very powerful when you understand that you are capable of working it out. It just may take you more than a few seconds. And good problems, that's what it requires. Computation is a little different. Computation may take seconds to do, but problem solving is going to take time. And we're wanting to make sure that your child understands that they can build their own ideas. They have that ability. And again, to think it through, we get them to draw pictures, we get them to build models. They become very successful problem solvers. So again, persistence is believing in your ability to solve a problem with time and effort, having the stamina to see it through. We want to keep in mind this tree with the boulder. Now, we'll know when we're successful because they're going to keep at the task. They're not going to give up. And I think of that wait, don't tell me. I'm an NPR fan, I guess. And so that wait, don't tell me. That's what we want your child to do, is get them to the point where they're like, wait, don't tell me. I want to figure it out. See, that's our hope for your child. So we want to keep their thinking, their reasoning high. And I want to just kind of end with this story. This is a story from Juanita Copley's book, Young Child in Mathematics. She is one of the best early childhood math educators that I met. And I love this story about Mrs. Nix with pre-kindergarten. And think about 4-year-old Stephen. He wants to build this upside down volcano, right? He's using these blocks. He works at it, but this is what struck me. This pre-K child has spent 30 minutes, more than 30 minutes, focused. That's stamina. That is amazing. That's what we want, right? The structure falls, and what does he do? He doesn't give up. He doesn't ask for help. He tries it again. Then the teacher is thinking, oh gosh, I need to help this child. I need to intervene now. But all of a sudden, he figures it out. And notice what he says. He throws up his arms. That ability to figure out, I've got it, right? Think of how powerful that is if that was your child that happened with, right? Giving that gift of time is important. Understanding when struggle leads to frustration and stuck points, we need to do some things like tell me about your thinking. Oh, get up and leave it for a bit. Come back to it later. Approach it with a fresh look, right? Fresh eyes. Giving them some of those strategies versus helping them get to the answer quicker, right? We want to keep that struggle productive. It's very important to help your child not just succeed at math, but excel at mathematics and use it as they progress up through the grades and into their future careers. So if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up or write a comment. That would be great. I really appreciate hearing from you. If there are other topics you'd like to know about, please put them in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel, share, click on the notifications bell so you know when other videos are coming. All of these will help the channel, and I would really appreciate that. Thanks so much for watching.